Okay, Simon. Well, the first question I've got for you is one that always that surprises me, but it doesn't, because it's around, financial decisions and the decisions that people make. And obviously, there would be a huge amount of background, context, experience that leads into why people make those financial decisions. And I know that you'll have more than a view for us on that. But in your experience, Simon, why is it that people don't always make the best financial decisions?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I don't mean to pick up a nuance here in your question necessarily, but you said in my experience. And so I try to, well, certainly I can't ignore my experience, but I'm trying to focus, I guess, on what the research says versus what my experience is. So what does the research say about how people, why people make the decisions they are, and why they aren't necessarily always in their own, or apparently in their own best interest? And I'd say there's, well, you could fill multiple books with the answer to that, but I think broadly you can say there's three things, or three sort of broad factors going on. One is there are some things about people. So some people are better at making trade-offs between long-term and short-term considerations. We typically have difficulty well, human beings typically have difficulty making comparisons where you have to compare a bunch of different things at once. After you get more than 2 or 3 considerations, it's very hard for us to hold all those things in our short-term memory and make those sort of different comparisons. We're subject to a range of biases and heuristics. People have different levels of financial literacy and financial numeracy, motivation. So there's a whole lot of things going on at the personal level, some of them more or less to different extents with individuals, but generally as human beings, we are subject to sort of limitations in all of those things. So I'd say one is about the person itself. One is about the actual type of decision. So when we're faced with decisions that are particularly complex, where there are those trade-offs between long-term considerations versus short-term considerations, where we're dealing with risk and uncertainty, all those are the sorts of decisions, the types of decisions where we're more likely to run into the sorts of biases and problems that humans face. And I should say, and many of those things are endemic in financial decision making. There are often we're making trading trade-offs when we're spending today versus saving for tomorrow, or investing. There's risk and uncertainty, and what insurances do I need? So unfortunately, in financial decision making, we've got a lot of the things that decision making research shows are problematic. So one is the people, 2 is the type of decisions, 3 then I would say is the context in which those decisions is made. And I reckon this is probably the biggest thing that's often overlooked, is the power of, excuse me, the power of the context on people's decisions. So it might be that, I don't know, in a spending context, I'm not making a decision to spend until, well, I happen to walk past a shop and there's that nice pair of shoes that I like. Right? So it's the context that's driven my decision. It wasn't me going, I need to go looking necessarily for a pair of shoes. I just happened to be in front of them. Or from an investment context, I was quite happy with my investment portfolio yesterday. Overnight, the market's fallen 3%. Now I'm starting to panic. I'm thinking about selling. So if I hadn't seen what happened in the market, that context has driven my behavior. Yes, it's got those other aspects. There's something about me as a person. There's something about the decision, but the context has now changed. And so that can then influence my decision. And that's that third aspect there. So each of them has sort of implications, but that third aspect about the context is a key way that we as an industry, the financial services industry, or employers to some extent with their employees, or even employees themselves, if you can just change the context, change your own context, then you can help yourself make better choices. In the shoes example, walking a different direction home so you don't go past the shop that might have the shoes in it, for example. But a whole range of those things, just changing the context is often an easy way to change and improve your financial decisions.